Hello, welcome to the discussion series that is being hosted by the Chaldean Cultural Center with collaboration of U of M, the Detroit Center, and Unique Voices in Films. Today's guest is Dr. Deborah Al Najjar, and Dr. Deborah Najjar, she's an author and she's a career and writing coach. And I'm so happy that she's here today because the last couple of months she's helped me kind of focus on my writing as well. So welcome, Deborah.
Thanks, Weem. Thanks for inviting me. I really appreciate the Chaldean Cultural Center and U of M for hosting and having this event and featuring writers.
Well, one of the reasons I have you on today was, aside from you having a book out and your experience with writing and such, but you have a special program that is taking place starting in September to December. So I would love for you to share more of that about it so that we can learn and participate and then get our writing done. So from what my understanding is like a 90-day writing workshop. Can you explain a little bit what that's about?
Sure. Well, it's a coaching container that will take place between September and the end of December. So it's 4 months. But the person that was helping me with marketing was like, I think it sounds sexier to say 90 days. I'm like, I don't know how realistic it is, but anyway, it's the 90 days is, say October through December, where we'll be more focused on figuring out the writing that each person is going to do. Not everyone has to do the same exact number of pages. But let's say it's starting September 1st or the beginning of September, and then there's going to be group coaching, individual coaching, and I have a writing boot camp that you're part of that's just included if you want to do it. That's Monday through Friday for 90 minutes if people want to join at that time, if it's convenient, to work and just get writing done. And then each person will have an accountability partner from the group. So you're going to check in with your accountability partner. You can come 5 days a week to write. Then there's group sessions, that's just once a week. And then a couple sessions one-on-one just with me, private coaching. That's basically the program. But it's really figuring out what works best for you as far as what project you have. So there's some people, like one person, he already has 500 pages, but it's actually really too long. And so it's about getting that to 200-page book and paring down all the things that don't need to be there, but also like fleshing out some of the stories. Another person wants to turn a screenplay into a novel, which is, a little bit different, but so he's writing a novel and he already has 50 pages. What I've discovered is a lot of people, this isn't necessarily, I don't know how to write and I want to learn how to write. I mean, I still would love to talk to everybody. So if you're like, I want to write a book, but I don't know how to write, have a session with me. It's free. Excuse me. I always do one complimentary coaching session, whatever you want to coach on. So I like to be helpful. And if somebody, isn't even going to work with me after that, but like maybe that session could help someone, figure out what their purpose is or what they're doing. And with that particular project. But anyway, I would love to talk to people, and I do talk to people for about 30 minutes to an hour, regardless of whatever is going to happen, if they're going to join this this coaching container or not. So it's just to see if it's a good fit. And so if you don't have a book at all, you have 0 pages and you don't even know what you're going to write, you still could do it. But I'm not going to say, hey, you're going to get this done by the end of December. I'm not sure. Some people, it sounds like they absolutely could get it done, or they already have it done, or, or they have really 2 books that they're working on. And it's about like paring it down and discovering what is it that actually I want to focus on. So for me as a writer, I have like 3 or 4 things I'm working on. I can always talk about them. And I have to make a decision. So for me, this container is also, just as a side note, I am promising myself that I will complete a book as well. But I'm not going to work on the 3 or 4 things I'm doing. I need to decide which one I'm doing. And that's the one that's going to get completed. And that's the one I'm focusing on. And it will get done along with this group separate. But you know what I mean, as a commitment to myself. So in general, if people write a couple pages a day, 5 times a week, that's 10 pages, that's 40 pages a month, that's 120 pages in 3 months. So it's very doable to write a nice size book. It's just a draft. It doesn't mean it's perfectly edited or that you can run off and send it to a publisher. Maybe at that point, then you're going to get feedback on it. What I find with many people that are artists and writers and even painters, any kind of art endeavor, is the blocks we create, in ourselves, like to, whether it's a personal thing or it's, not being clear about what the purpose of the project is. And once you're clear on that, you're able to maybe get focused. And then other people, have specific blocks that have to do with their own things in their life that are personal. And it's like, how can I, you know, work on some of those issues? So that's, if that makes sense. I think
Yeah.
I,
Well, and that's where I would like to know, for the people watching this, to know more about you as a writer. When did you start, or when did you decide to be a writer, and when did you start actually writing? And then you have a book that I'd like to talk a little bit about. So maybe if you share your experience as a writer, then people can maybe relate to your story.
sure. Um, so the book that I have is co-edited, and it's an anthology, and Dr. Nadia Al-Ali, who's a Iraqi scholar and professor, um, she and I uh, came up with this idea to have an anthology or a book that would feature Iraqi writers, artists, academics, and that the book would be, um, multidisciplinary, not necessarily only academic, but there would be poetry and fiction and painting and, you know, um, yeah, so multiple genres, and that to cover like a breadth of topics. So that was a project we started in 2006 or seven, I can't remember, but it took us until 2013. We, like, within a year or two, had a press, Syracuse University Press, who was interested and said yes. And then we had secured the different contributors, but we didn't have all the contributors. There's about like 25 or more if we include the artists. So like 35 people, something like that. And, but it was a really big creative project. I worked on writing the intro. So I don't have a contribution myself in that book, but I was the, editor and create, like, basically she and I were the editors of this book. I have some creative writing that I've done in the past that published in literary journals, not that recent though. And I also wrote a dissertation, and it is not published as of yet.
So
So
what has been your experience as a writer? What has been your struggles and challenges and
yeah,
the
so, and also I didn't really answer all. So when I thought, I think when I first, I don't think I made a decision I'm going to be a writer, but in ninth grade, just that little 14-year-old self, where I took an English class and loved literature. And before that, I was just reading basically, I don't want to judge, but like trashy stuff, which is like, I don't know, Danielle Steele. I don't really remember what I read. I'm not proud of it or anything. It wasn't anything that great. But the point is, I was reading and I was a kid. And probably I liked mysteries and maybe some genre fiction and some, just whatever. And I don't think I really got any great exposure in grade school. But then when I went to high school, I had excellent teachers and I was exposed to literature. And again, whatever you read is fine. You don't have to read high literature or whatever. But anyway, when I read that, I really felt like so much in alignment with purpose. And I think that's when I decided I wanted to teach. And I thought maybe I was going to teach high school English at that time. And so I wanted to write fiction, and I continued to write fiction through my 20s. Then I got into academia, so I was really writing more academic writing. And not everybody who's in academia loves academic writing, but I love literary theory and cultural studies and cultural theory and philosophy. So I feel like I switched to a different sort of genre in writing in my 30s and 40s, and then some nonfiction writing. And today I'm more focused on creative nonfiction. I have a screenplay, I write poetry, I have, some academic things I want to write. So, but I think my challenge is to get focused and stay focused. And another challenge is that I have a fear of judgment, or a fear of like, what people are going to say about what I want to write about, or the subjects or the opinions I have. And so I think that probably has been my biggest block personally. And that's also why I love coaching and why I work with people. Everyone's different. That's me. That doesn't mean everyone who is having a hard time finishing a book is because they fear what the public will say, or they fear, cultural criticism or whatever. But whatever it is, there's probably something there. If you haven't done it, it isn't just because you don't have time, or that you feel insecure about the writing. It's like probably a combination of many things, if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah, that does. Thank you. Because that leads to the next question, is that you had once mentioned that although your program is open to people of all backgrounds, you want to pay specific attention to the Arab American community. And so I'm wondering, is maybe part of that is because you relate to maybe some of their inner struggles?
Yeah, I mean, I think that so many people who would identify as Arab American or Chaldean or Iraqi or a person of color, whatever your identification is, um, we're all really different. That's something that I would emphasize, is that we're not coming from one, background. Even if, like, say you and I are Chaldean and we have some similarities, but we have a lot of differences, whether it's in opinions or how we were raised or what we think. And what you're going to produce as a writer is going to be different from what I'm going to create and produce. And the reason I bring that up is that I feel like when there isn't a diversity of voices in any particular category, of a, in some, like cultural background, then when anyone gets published, people put a lot of pressure on that person or on that book to, quote, represent the Arab, or represent a woman, or represent a person of color, or whatever. And it's like, it just doesn't work that way. But I think when there are more voices, then no one has the expectation that that particular person has to, have a certain point of view, or publish anything that's either, a positive cultural image or a negative cultural, whatever it is. And also, I would say that because of the history of colonialism, because of the history of just a lot of things that we're not going to necessarily get into today, um, the 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 most that's been written about Iraqis have been by non-Iraqis, for example. And also the way in which we learn about Arabs and Arab Americans, whether they're Muslim or Catholic or whatever, is in a mainstream way. And we're not learning about it from people who are from that background as often. I'm not saying there aren't published people in those cases, but they might not even if there's a lot of people published, they don't have a wide readership or audience. So I think part of my interest is to help anybody who wants to work on a project. And that includes somebody who you happen to be Arab. Maybe what you're going to write about is airplanes. I'm just making something up off the top of my head. And it's like, you don't have to write about being Arab or Chaldean or anything. You could write about whatever the hell you want to write about, but you don't have to feel the pressure that the subject matter you need to cover has to be your ethnicity or background. If you want to, that's awesome. That's great. But that's not it. And again, if there was not the sort of pressure of like, I need to represent my group, then people would write on anything and everything. And they probably do. So I'm just speaking from my own experience and just like listening to other people and what they've struggled with.
And I noticed that you're on your website, Desire Compass Coaching. You provide other type of coaching. And what other services do you provide outside of coaching writers?
Yeah, so I could work with anybody. It's I don't really like the word life coach, but I call it desire coaching. And it's kind of comes from the way that I was trained. I did the 7-month coaching program, and it's based on finding your desires, and then what's blocking you from having that. So I've coached people on relationships. I've coached people on the majority of people that have come to me and that have been clients and that I've worked with for a long time. It ends up being a lot of different things. So say you come and you're like, someone was wanting to go to architecture school and she had not been in school for a while, raising her kids. So that's what we focused on, is like going back to school. So career change, getting a degree, getting into grad school, completing a PhD, completing a degree, going to college. Somebody I work with is an actor, and she just decided she doesn't want to finish the degree she'd been working on for a long time because it wasn't something that she really was aligned with, but she was feeling kind of pressure from family. So I think it's about finding out what is your dream, what is your purpose, and aligning with that. So whether that's around a career or a book project or, or a move you need to make, geographically. So it's a lot of different things. I'd say a lot of people have grief blocks. I'm not a therapist. My PhD is in American Studies and Ethnic Studies. So, but I feel like some kind of coaching has a flavor of that, where you're really talking with people about their whole life and having a holistic approach. For me, there's like a spiritual component. It depends on the person. If they don't like that, then that's not what I'm going to do. But in general, it's like, where are you in your life and on your path? And how can you be more aligned with what it is that you think you're supposed to be doing? It could be in career, but it could be in some other area of your life. And what's blocking you? And is there some kind of source of grief? It could be literally, someone in your life passed away. It could be trauma. It could be divorce. It could be loss of income. It could be all kinds of things that you're grieving. You don't even know you're grieving. It could be obvious that you're grieving. You could be in depression, but you could also be just, if you're feeling stuck, like to get to what's underneath that. And I when I work with people, I do suggest writing, even if they're not a writer and their purpose isn't to write. It's like you could be journaling, or I might give some short assignments or something just very simple to get people to work on what it is. So it's not just talk and talking, but it's like, it's not, I'm making suggestions on what you could do, something you could read, or something you could, maybe a meditation practice, or I also do emotional freedom technique, which is EFT tapping. And it's like you tap on meridian points. There's a science behind it that releases stress from the body, lowers your cortisol, and gets you out of fight or flight if you're in fight or flight, which is when your amygdala is being activated, which people who have a lot of trauma have had that. So I've had a lot of people who, it's just different. Everyone's different. But so I guess long answer is I help people with relationships, with coaching around career. That's been the majority of people have come to me really for their career or for an academic project. But even when whatever anyone says they're there to do, it's always, there's more to it than that. And like what's underneath it, or what else is going on in your life that maybe needs to shift.
So is there something that you can provide our audience today that they can utilize? Say somebody, and doesn't even end up calling you or doesn't seek any kind of way to improve their where they're at, or to pursue the things that they love and even get anything done on paper. Is there like a simple technique that they could just try at home that might work or might be a temporary solution?
That's
You
a good
can show
question.
us that
Let
you
me
can
think about
share
it.
with us.
Let me think. I think,
Or a question they can ask themselves that could help them like trigger.
your question's perfect. I'm just trying to think of what to share. There's so many things that I can suggest. And even when somebody does that hour-long free session, which I recommend, I like see what's going on with them, and then I make a bunch of suggestions that they can do, whether they continue to coach or not. So let's say you're just hearing this and you're not thinking you want to even do that session. I can recommend a few things right now. If you don't have a meditation practice, I suggest you look into meditation. There are many apps that are free. There's Headspace, which I don't think is free, but there's Insight Timer. That's a free meditation app. It's excellent. I've been using it since 2014. Even if all you do is meditate for 1 minute. And I think the biggest thing that I would say, that I'm going to make some suggestions, but they all fall into an umbrella of keep it simple and like have it be low stakes, which means that you don't have to meditate for 30 minutes. You don't have to meditate at all if you don't think that it's a formal, like the formal practice of meditating isn't for you. Some people are, don't see themselves doing that. I would say, can you just set a timer for 1 minute and be still and take some deep breaths to get grounded and to get in touch with yourself in terms of what is your intuition telling you. And if you have a notebook, jot down anything that comes to mind. I think we underestimate that intuitive voice that all of us have. When things are noisy in our life with, social media and busyness and work, we're not going to be grounded to be able to hear that voice. But even if I'm busy, it doesn't mean I have to change my whole schedule in life. Can I take a minute? So not even 20, not even 5, 1 minute, 60 seconds, and tap into the quiet and inner voice and see what comes up. And it could be some really loud, like, this is messed up, whatever, like, who knows what your voice is going to tell you. But if you keep doing that, you might persistently hear something a little quieter that tells you something like, hey, you know what, you always dreamed of like traveling to a certain country, or what about that book that you were going to write? Something that's like it's usually a quiet voice, it's not loud, that tells you something. And then again, you don't have to do something that minute about it, but like there's that. So I would just say, so the main suggestion is, can you keep the stakes low? Can you do something just for 1 minute? Which the example I gave is meditation, and I recommend it. The other thing that takes like 1 minute and 20 seconds is the 4-7-8 breath. We could do it together if you guys want. And I could run it, like take you through it right now so that the audience, when they watch it, they can do it.
That would be great. You want to do that? And then, okay.
Yeah. So it's a yogic breathing. But it's really easy. It's 4-7-8. I'm going to explain it before we do it, and we're going to do 4 sets. So you're going to breathe in your nose 4. So, and then hold 7, and then exhale out of your mouth 8. It's also suggested that you take your tongue and you put it behind your front teeth, and you don't have to have your mouth closed, but if the tongue is behind your like the roof of your mouth, there's something, the air gets through better. Okay, so we're going to do 4 sets. So literally 4-7-8 is, can I do the math? Like 19 seconds, then 19 times 4. So I think it's like 1 minute and 20 seconds. There's no way we don't have 1 minute and 20 seconds per day. This prevents anxiety. Now, if I'm feeling anxious right now, my anxiety is not going to go. It's not a quick cure. It's not medicine like you pop a pill. However, if I do this persistently or consistently on a daily basis, I will not have anxiety. This is a technique that people do when they have PTSD, or they were in, like terrible catastrophe, like an earthquake or like something like that, like anything. And people were relieved pretty quickly. It might take a few days or even a week, like I said, if you're really in a bad place and you haven't been doing this. So I can be really bad where this definitely works, but I feel better and I'm doing great, so I completely forget about it. So the practice is, can I take a minute every day, even if I'm doing really well? It's not about like that you have to be not doing well, to keep, because most people have a lot of stress in their life, and especially if you're successful, you're busy, or you're not successful and you're stressed about that, whatever it is, we could all use that calm. Okay, so I'm going to do the counting. I'm not going to do it with you, and but it's in the nose 4, hold 7, and then release out of the mouth 8. Okay, are we ready? Okay, so first set, in the nose 1, 2, 3, 4, hold 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale 8, 7, 6, 1. Next set. Inhale 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale. Okay, third set. In the nose 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. Exhale. Okay, final set. In the nose, air through the nose 1, 2, 3. Hold. and exhale. And you don't have to be loud, but I was showing you so that it, like, people do it. So you can just, how do you feel, Weem?
I still haven't gotten out of it.
You
That
haven't gone away?
I haven't gotten out of it completely because it really felt good. Thank you so
Okay, good.
much. That was
Yes,
a
you can also feel a little lightheaded, so you want to be careful, and you don't want to do too many sets of that. So you do 4, and that's it. If you want to do another set later in the day, you can, but you wouldn't want to do more than like 3 sets in one day. And so really, again,
so
how long,
simple.
how long did that take? Super simple, right?
That's why sometimes, we do get frustrated and stressed out because I think subconsciously we know that all it takes is a couple of minutes, and we have so many people providing so many wonderful services that can help us that we can utilize, like yourself. Like you've provided so much for the community, including the daily writing boot camp that you have. Like I said, sometimes I come on just for half an hour, sometimes even less. And you're right, that makes a difference. Even if it's 20 minutes of a focus on your writing, and working with professionals is always a plus. I think they can always help you jump, from whether it's your career or your writing. So,
Thank you for saying that. I was going to say anyone's welcome to join that boot camp for free. And
yeah,
it's
how can people find out more about your
like, contact me. And yeah, so if you just want to write and you don't necessarily want coaching, but you want that accountability, you can come. It's Monday through Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So a little bit early for West Coast folks. But even if you don't want to come the whole 90 minutes, if you come in muted, you can come in anytime. Just come in, write for 20 minutes and leave. So that's it. Or come once a week, come once in a while, whatever. It's super easy. And again, I wanted to keep it low stakes. If I said, if you want to join this boot camp, you have to come Monday through Friday for 90 minutes, probably no one would have said yes, but I was like, come whenever, come, do whatever you want. And then that makes people, I mean, one person in the group has already written like 90 pages, single spaced, and basically has a book. Another person has a ton of poetry that she got done, and she didn't join thinking this is what I'm going to do and I have a goal. It was like, I'm just going to come and write every day. So, yeah.
Yeah, I found it very useful. And what we're going to do, we're going to include a link to your website so people can go on there and learn about all the services that you provide. So we have a few minutes left, and I really want to just take the chance to kind of see what your future work plans are. I'd like to find out more about you because I know you've done amazing work in the past, and I'm curious, and other people are curious. What is Deborah planning to do for herself 5 to 10 years from now? What do you see yourself at?
I don't know. I try not to go too much into the future because I feel like what I've been focusing on spiritually and emotionally is to be present in this moment and in this time, which doesn't mean I can't have plans, but I feel like I spent a lot of my time in life sort of thinking about the future and what I'm going to be doing in 5 or 10 years. And what I've discovered in my life is nothing ever really turns out the way you think it will, including romantic relationships or your career or whatever. And it's okay, but can I go with the flow, and can I be in this moment to see what is unfolding and be in acceptance and gratitude, not in a passive, I have to accept some terrible thing, but kind of like, what is happening here right now that is good for me, and where can I take that? I have I'm not sure if I'm going to do it though, but I don't know. A friend wanted me to write a screenplay that was kind of a romantic comedy, like Chaldean wedding kind of thing. And I was just thinking about an Iraqi love story that I have in mind and that I could tell that would, whatever, that is something, I don't know that it's really that funny. So it might not be a rom-com. And there's that. So I would like, where I see myself 5 or 10 years from now is in a really different place than where I've been when it comes to my own creativity, that I'm actually writing consistently, publishing, and allowing myself to be published if that's what is in my destiny, but that I'm not the block. The block is it's just not happening, but I actually wrote something, completed it, sent it to an editor, sent it to a publisher, and then whatever happens after that is not my business. But like, I haven't been doing that. So I have a lot of things I've written and a lot of things I haven't written, but I have not sent them out in a long time. So that's something I want to change, and to do more public speaking, to do more teaching, and why I want to do this container that, I have been doing the one-on-one coaching and I really enjoy it. I really wanted to do the group because I love teaching, even though it's not teaching, it's not a course, but it's like having that group and the energy of the different people together and the dynamic that happens, which can be very nourishing, to have that level of support with other people. And they're going to be small groups. So even if like, I can't really take more than 15 people this fall, I think that would even be a lot, but either way, the group would be 4 to 6 people. So I would divide people up so that your group, your coaching would only be with, a few other people, not 10 people. So there's that. And then you might meet the other folks in, the boot camp or whatever. But I think I want to just take my coaching also to the next level, which is why I am doing some things. And like, I think I wanted it, and I'm letting myself be visible. And when I let myself be visible, then you asked me to do this, or I got to do this other article. But before that, why haven't I done that before? I haven't really tried because I feel I'm not necessarily that shy, but there's some part of me that feels shy. Like I don't want to be hyper visible, or I don't want to be like a salesperson. That's the part I don't like about my business, is that I haven't always been comfortable with that part of it. But when you're not comfortable with a part of yourself, then that's a part that gets blocked. So when I've allowed myself to say, you know what, this is what I do, this is my living, this is, and whoever is interested to work with me will work with me, and whoever's not interested won't. And that's a fact. And so I don't have to be afraid. I can just continue to do the next right thing, and the next thing that's in front of me, whatever unfolds. And if it's coaching that's going to keep I'm going to flourish in this, great. And if not, I'll do something else,
Well, I think I'm glad you're making yourself visible, because that's how I ended up joining the boot camp, and it does help a lot. You've helped a lot of people. Thank you very much. And I know that you'll help many, many more. I appreciate you taking the time to come and introduce your business to everybody, because it's, again, we have so many talents. That's the local talents or not, even if it's somebody, I know that in the boot camp, I don't know, there's people you get from all over the world. And so great. Thank you so much for all your work. And thank you everybody for joining us.
Thank you, Weem, for your work and for featuring me, and for everything that the Chaldean Cultural Center does, you and Judy. I so appreciate it. And we're going to continue to flourish and feature our communities. So I see that. That's part of my vision of 5 to 10 years.
Yes, we have similar visions. Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Deborah. Thank you, everybody.